Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect episode 382. We are recording and broadcasting live on Sunday, October 17th, 2021. I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
And Michelle Hillard.
Hi everyone, howdy.
Hi guys. Today, we are probably going to be primarily talking about yesterday's DC Fandome Event, their second annual kind of virtual, their own Comic-Con panel, basically. So yeah, lots of stuff coming out of that. We'll be talking to that mostly today. If we get to it, we've got a couple other items to discuss. But let's jump right into it. Yeah, yesterday was DC Fandome. If I remember correctly, it was shorter this year. I think this year ran 4 hours. And from what I recall last year, it was stretched throughout almost the entire day. From the way I remember it.
I think, did it like cut off at points during the day last time and then come back on and then cut off, or
no, but
they just did different videos or something? They had like full panels at some points, didn't they? Or am I confusing something else?
So, I mean, first, Bobby, you, if I remember correctly, you didn't watch it last year. I think you were busy and you weren't able to see DC Fandome. Is that right?
It feels like it was forever ago, but I want to say I feel like I watched some of it. I don't know that I watched all of it in its entirety. And I wasn't it 2 days? I could have sworn it was, or did they shorten it to 1 day and it was supposed to be 2 days? I can't remember.
That sounds familiar because in the end, I think it was 1 day. I'm pretty certain it was 1 day. But now that you say that, I do feel like it was going to be a 2-day thing, and that changed. I also feel like I thought there was a point where there was not just going to be the one stream, like there was going to be a couple different streams depending on what you wanted to see, and I think that changed, and I could be making all of this up, but I think that was what happened. I mean, really quick, I'll say I watched basically all of last year's, and I watched almost all of this year's. I wasn't able to see really the very last 30 minutes, the very end. Unfortunately, we had a family kind of outing plan that we wanted to go to, and we had to leave, so I didn't get to see the last 30 minutes this year. But
you didn't miss much that last 30 minutes.
But compared to last time, I think I remember jumping on here and actually saying I was very impressed with last year's DC Fandome. You know, we were in the middle of the pandemic. You know, we hadn't been to a convention like Comic-Con or any other like convention like that, you know, for a little bit. And it was actually kind of nice. I enjoyed what they kind of put together, you know, in comparison to stuff like, I mean, you could try to compare it to like, you know, they did San Diego Comic-Con at home last year, which I thought was pretty lackluster.
Pretty bad.
I really enjoyed it last time. Last time they did basically what they did yesterday, but there was, as you kind of mentioned, Michelle, there was like also these kind of like video skit things they would throw in between like the stuff that they were like revealing or the different panels they were doing. It kind of broke up the stream a little bit, I think, in a good way. Watching yesterday's, overall, I didn't enjoy it as much. It felt like it was just a constant, like, hey, here's this thing, here's this thing, here's this thing. That it seemed like it needed some like breathing room here and there. So I don't know. That was my quick takeaway on the 4-hour event from yesterday. It didn't feel as successful to me as the first one did.
I think it seemed a little more overly scripted, and then it also just I felt like there was just a barrage of information constantly coming at me, like the whole time. It was this thing, then this thing, then this thing, then this thing, and on top of that, it's like, and I kind of found it redundant after a little while, but they would keep going back to the actress that's on The Flash,
Candace Patton, I think.
And it was like breaking news, breaking news, breaking news. And I'm like, this whole thing's breaking news, guys. The whole damn 4-hour event.
Yeah.
Like you know, like, oh, we're gonna reveal this, and now we're gonna reveal that, and I'm like, everything's a reveal, guys. You don't have to give me this fake breaking news thing every 15 minutes. It seemed like after a while, I was just gonna like, oh, yeah, it's. Yeah, we're all learning all the things all at the same time. It's all new.
I mean, I thought it was an interesting concept to make it like
Yeah.
as a way to handle like the lesser kind of announcements. You know, they
Right,
have
like
her
the
do
flashes
these-
boots and
let's do these news flashes,
these
of
littler things,
quick
I
bits of
guess.
information that is new and is something to like announce, but it's not like
It doesn't need a
something
full
worthy
thing
as what do
on,
they call it,
right.
the Hall of Heroes or something, that virtual stage
Right,
thing.
like that's the like main room.
Yeah.
So
In
no,
that way, it's kind of like Comic-Con, where you have like the side stages where they'll have like little panels for things and shows and comics and stuff, and then you have the Hall H stuff, and that's kind of like what it sort of tried to mirror in my thoughts in terms of what they were doing with that.
Yeah, like you had kind of like this. What was it? Oh, the Peacemaker panel,
Right.
with all of them. Basically, it was like that was almost like a smaller panel. Like if you were going to a smaller room, like in Hall, like off Hall H or something. I guess I don't know. It was informative, and I like getting that stuff. But yeah, I felt like it was kind of like like, yeah. I don't know.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it was basically the same, but I think with last time spread out over a longer period of time, again, they had these kind of video, like a lot of times humorous kind of video clips that they were kind of throwing in between stuff that they were announcing in different panels, and it felt like it had a better flow last time. This time it was like, okay, we're only going to do it 4 hours, but it's almost like let's cover the same amount of information in 4 hours, so it felt like more fast paced. And just like a constant barrage almost. Sorry, Bobby, you were going to say something.
No, I was just going to say that in a way, it does mirror like a Hall H day, in that you might sit through some panels where you're not as much interested in some of the stuff that might be on, even though it's Hall H, compared to like when you get to when they start like having the Marvel panel, or when usually it's like in the morning, maybe you get the DC panel to kick off or something, and then you have a few in between, and you're kind of waiting till the big Marvel panel. It kind of feels like that in a way, where there's a little bit up front, and then there's a lot of stuff in the middle that you may or may not care about, and then you're off to the races towards the end where the big thing is being talked about. And I think that it definitely is faster in the way that they presented it in terms of how much information is coming at you. I guess the only thing I would say is that depending on your level of interest, that would easily be a time where you could just sort of take a break or just sort of hit mute and not really have that much input or thought into what's going on. If it's a TV show for CW that you haven't watched and have no real care about, then it's like, okay, I can take a pause here. It's not anything specific to me. And then, hit the next big HBO Max show, or whether it's a movie coming up and they do that, then that's the time where your kind of interest is peaked again. And I think that seemed to be the general consensus, is that there's a lot of stuff that was out there in terms of information, but what really people cared about was the movie stuff, because they wanted to know the slate and get to see some of the, I guess, some of the footage that's been shown and shot for all these different things that we've known are coming, but just haven't had a good look at yet. So I think that was where some of the restlessness maybe came from too, is just you ready to get to that stuff, and it's not right up front. It's parsed together in there, so to keep your interest for the whole thing, so that they don't just give you all of it up front and then everyone just goes away, or they kind of move it in and out, so you don't know where it's going to appear. So I think that was kind of their purpose.
Because they came out with the Black Adam and Aquaman stuff pretty early on, and then it kind of got into the CW stuff, and then kind of peaked back up again to the other bigger movies, Shazam and Batman. But
Yeah, they kind of spread the bit, like you
yeah.
said. I mean, they started off with Black Adam immediately,
Yeah.
which was nice that they're like, okay, we're not gonna
Make you
we're not
wait.
gonna make you sit through a lot of stuff you're not interested in until we get to all the movie stuff later. They kind of spread the big stuff, which I guess is easy to say is Black Adam, Shazam, the Flash film, the Batman, in Peacemaker. I would even argue is that's kind of the main stuff I think of the day, and they kind of spread those things out and kind of stuck in other stuff in between. Michelle, sorry.
No, I was gonna ask what you guys were thinking about, with Black Adam, and kind of got to see a little bit more about that one.
We can start there if you like. Yeah, Black Adam came first. I don't know. What did you guys think of it?
Well, my general consensus for Black Adam and for any of the other things, I'm going to sound like I'm repeating myself a lot, because for me, it all had the same feel, regardless of whether it was Black Adam, Flash. It all looked good and makes me anticipate what these movies will be when we get a chance to see them. And the sequels look like they're going bigger and in scope and special effects and everything. So it has me interested on that level. And I think that ultimately all the movie stuff looks like they have a good slate coming up with all the ones that I saw that they presented, and everything looks like I can't wait to see it. And I think that as far as what we saw at the DC Fandome, I guess it's fine. I feel like most of the time there's a good way to do a tease and a bad way to do a tease. And I feel like if they had 10, 15 more seconds on almost all of their things, except for the Batman, I think that was perfect. But the other ones just felt like it just was cut just slightly short of what a good tease would be, just because of how they cut both or the other ones. So I still like what I saw. I just felt like that I mean, talk about a tease, that it was like a teasing more so than a tease in a way. It was like, I felt like the way they cut it, I guess, is my only issue. There's a way to do that without it being like, like you couldn't have just showed the end of that shot, just to, because there's going to be plenty more. So like, why there,
why
so
hold off now?
Yeah. So, but I mean, like I said, I liked what I saw, and it has me excited for everything, really. And same with the Black Adam.
To kind of cover the whole event too, I think you said that perfectly. Like, I would agree, for the most part, all the stuff we watched looked good, but none of it was like, oh my God, got me extra pumped, even more so than I probably already was, to be honest. Like, the Black Adam thing was kind of very brief. I thought we were going to see more than we saw, and I was kind of surprised. I'm like, that's really it. That's all we're getting. I saw a lot of reaction that seemed super pumped about the little bit that we saw, and I found that kind of okay. Like, I don't know. And then there's other stuff that surprised me too, like, that we get to the Flash, and it's like, oh, we're still in production, and I'm like, we're all pretty sure you're not actually in principal photography anymore. And that's a movie that's due out in a year, and that we got to see some of it, but that also felt, I don't know, somewhat lacking compared to Shazam 2, which the footage they showed was presented in this kind of almost like behind the scenes kind of way. But I would argue that we saw more of Shazam 2 than we did of Flash, and Shazam 2 is not due out till 2023.
Yeah, I agree.
I find that kind of odd,
wrapped,
how much we've seen of Shazam 2 compared to Black Adam or the Flash. I mean, in a way, it's all nice that we're getting anything. I mean, I'm not
sure
really trying to bitch, but
but we have to judge it on what we
Yeah,
got, you know.
right.
So it's
I think for me, my thing is like I don't like getting like a scene of the movie played like they did in Black Adam.
Yeah.
That's my big thing. I mean, I'm like, I don't want to see a scene from the movie. What I want to see,
It's like a well cut, like sizzle reel
well,
almost.
it's like the
or
way they
trailer.
did. It's the way they did the Batman last year.
Yeah.
They took a couple of good scenes and threw them together, and it was a nice like sizzle reel, and that's great. And I like seeing that. I don't like seeing a clip from the movie. Like I don't want to see a scene kind of play out. I'm okay. And I'll be honest, like the whole Aquaman behind the scene kind of thing and the Shazam behind the scene, I'm like, I don't really want to see that either. I don't want to see the green screens and them like goofing around and joking. And like, no. Like, and the thing is, like, I think Shazam's wrapped filming, I think
so.
It does sound familiar.
You know, and so for the Flash to be coming out next year and is still filming, Shazam's wrapped and is still not coming out until 23. Like, really, y'all couldn't put together a sizzle reel? It's just kind of that I think is the frustrating thing for me. I will say though, having said that though, like I think what we did see in Black Adam was kind of nice, and I say that mostly because I feel like you really get to see just like Black Adam, man, he don't mess around. Like, and that's what I think the big takeaway is from watching that scene play out. And then yeah, like I'll say like my thoughts on Aquaman 2 are extremely lackluster because I was not a fan of the first movie, and from what I can see, it looks kind of more of the same.
I mean, there's what he made that one comment, James Wan, which gives me hope of what is this? This sequel is going to be more, he didn't say more adult. He said more like, oh man, what's the word he used? But he basically hinted that it would still have a humor about it, but it would be more
grown up or something.
Yeah, there's a
Maybe
word.
like,
I'm losing it. But it was one of those things that I'm like, if that's true, that's definitely a good sign. I'm like you, Michelle. Like I didn't like the first film, so
the first film seemed completely silly to me, and so
it's gotten worse every time I've tried.
It really gets kind of worse every time, and like so the second one, they're really gonna have to work leaps and bounds to make it not seem silly to me. Like, but I digress. Yeah, the Peacemaker segment was nice. I think it was nice to have that kind of more as a panel just between the people in the show. I feel like you got a good feel for the show, which was really nice, in my opinion. It's probably one of the more informative things.
Yeah, I think Peacemaker looks good. I'm excited about that show.
I'm more excited now than I was actually. After hearing them all talk on the panel, I was like, oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm actually intrigued by this. I'm quite curious to see the show. Earlier, it's kind of like, yeah, Peacemaker, yeah, so now I'm like, yeah, sure.
I mean, I've been excited about that from the get-go, knowing that James Gunn wrote every episode. He directed most of them.
5 of the 8.
You know, after seeing Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad, I was immediately like, yeah, I would totally watch a show about this guy. Like, so I've had high hopes.
I think it's weird because I remember when the Batman trailer had happened last year at DC Fandome, and they had mentioned that only 25% of the movie had been shot at that point. And that trailer
put together a teaser, and it was a damn good teaser.
It was a damn good teaser.
So I really don't understand why we got so little of 2 of the movies that are, I think, pretty much filmed and wrapped or close to, at least with the Flash. So it seems odd in that way, and
that's my frustration with it.
Yeah, and I think that if I had one sort of major criticism for the whole thing, to me, it's I like that we got a little bit of their plans for some of the Max stuff. Like you got your Peacemaker, but you also had a little bit of the Batgirl, and excuse me, and Blue Beetle. But at this point, I don't remember when it was announced. I feel like it was at least maybe 3-4 years ago. At this point, it could have been less than that. But I remember being at Comic-Con, I and they mentioned that there was going to be a Green Lantern Corps movie
Yeah.
and the HBO Max series or whatever.
Yep.
So it's like to not have any news about some of that stuff or some of
Right.
your upcoming stuff, even if you don't have anything to show for it. Like at least when I don't want it to necessarily compare, but when Marvel does their like when they did their Investors Day last year, even for stuff that wasn't in production, they at least had like the title card and talked a little bit about like here's some of the stuff that you can look forward to, you know, in the near term. To not even talk about some of those things that you have coming up on your HBO Max to get excited for, it seems like that it's a missed opportunity. We didn't learn anything necessarily in terms of things we don't know for the movie slate beyond what we already know. No other, you know, announcements there, and it seems like this is the time you would do it, other than if you're going to go to a Comic-Con again next year. Who knows? You know, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just continue doing their DC Fandome separate. But it seems like this was the time, so I don't know why hold off on some of those things.
Yeah, I mean, like I like them introducing the Blue Beetle a little bit. Like that was more information than I knew about the Blue Beetle, you know. And then I like that they kind of dive into kind of what they're doing with some of the paperwork stuff, the actual like comics that are going out and what's happening there, and updating information on that. Like that was really kind of cool. But then it's like, and I'm not trying to be picky and like poop on a show or anything, but then it's like we had the Supergirl panel because it's their final season. That panel went on for a ridiculous amount of time. Like far longer than it needed to go. And it really didn't serve a huge point. I guess it was a whole goodbye for them. And I'm like, okay, but like, wrap it up, guys. You know, like it just kind of seemed to kind of keep going. And
like
then,
this isn't a panel going, this is the end of Game of Thrones. Like we're talking about Supergirl. No offense to that show.
I'm not trying to be poopy on Supergirl. Like I'm really not. And like even the same with like the Legends of Tomorrow. And thank goodness that was actually a really short little thing they did. So that was actually pretty okay. You know, but those are shows that like I don't know. And like on one side, I'm kind of happy they had a whole like, yay, happy 20th anniversary for Smallville. And that was cool. But again, that panel, and I liked Smallville. Like I have nothing against Smallville, but like that panel seemed a little long for just being like happy 20th anniversary of Smallville. I was kind of like, I guess they're trying to recreate the smaller panels if you actually went to a con.
Right.
And I get that. But at the same time, it's just like, I'd rather have more informative stuff. Like what's new? Like you're saying, like what, like the Green Lantern Corps, like give me some juice here. Like give me some, like I'm watching this to get informed, not to kind of reminisce on the things that I'm enjoying, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It almost feels like I don't know that this would work. I think that the reason why they did it this way is because they know it probably wouldn't work. But it almost feels like the stuff with Supergirl, the stuff with Smallville 20th anniversary, you know, some of those other things seemed like they would have been better served if they had done what they originally wanted to do the first year, which was have 2 days. And you could have had all that stuff like on a Friday and then save all the big movie stuff and coming soon stuff for Saturday. And that would have served both purposes. I just think that they probably know that more than likely most people probably won't check out Friday stuff if it's like that. And so that's why
they're better served to put that stuff and interweave it into the stuff we do want to watch so that you will check that stuff out and then go, oh wait, maybe I should watch Stargirl. Or
exactly.
Like
yeah. But at the same time, I feel like that's times that I could have spent learning about what Bobby was saying. You know, to give me some the other information of things to come, not what's currently kind of happening.
Yeah, and I say that, and sorry, Dave. I say that, but it's like it's not like they couldn't have given that to us and made it 5 hours or 6 hours. They just don't want to give it to us. So it didn't matter if they didn't have that stuff.
That's what it really comes down to.
Wouldn't have given it to us. So it's
right.
just like why? I don't know why, but they seem to know why. So yeah.
Well, I mean,
what were you gonna say, David?
I mean, first of all, it's funny that you brought that up because sadly, I think I've gotten to a point with WB and DC that I've almost dismissed when they make those kind of announcements because of exactly what you're talking about. There's been so many times when they've announced like a project and then it never happens. And we've been in Hall H. We've been in Hall H for those announcements, and toward my latter years of going to Comic-Con, unfortunately, like those more recent announcements, I just kind of was like, okay, that'll be nice if it happens. And sure enough, like this Green Lantern Corps, nothing. And maybe that's why when this event happened, I honestly didn't even think about the fact that they didn't announce anything new. Like it was all stuff we knew was going to happen. There was no like big surprises other than really minor like announcements, like we're changing the like slogan for Superman, stuff like that.
Right.
I mean,
that's yeah.
But yeah, it may be the fact that they didn't announce anything new is almost good evidence of them going, you know what, we're not going to say anything ever again until we're 100% sure we're going to make this kind of thing. It still sucks, don't get me wrong. I think I completely agree with you, Bobby. I think it's unfortunate that we got this whole event and we didn't get any other like, hey, this is this new DC project that's happening that we haven't told anybody about, like nothing.
Yeah, everything was, hey, the sequel to this is coming out, or the next season of this is coming out, or this video game that you already know about is coming out, or like it was all information we all kind of knew was going to be happening. Nothing was really breakthrough. I mean, I guess they kind of officially announced Wonder Woman 3, but we already kind of knew that was happening.
Yeah, I think it's more like a confirmation, which is what we got out of that.
And even that panel,
like you said, we knew.
Yeah, we knew.
Right. Yeah,
I honestly, I think the third thing that really kind of bothered me about the whole thing, dude, I truly love Batman as much as the next person. I do. I really do. But the amount of push that they give to Batman, the fact that at this point, I won't say I'm fine, but okay, maybe Henry Cavill won't be Superman again. But the fact that we still have no news on any kind of development with that character in live action is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's like how many Batman things. We've got a Batgirl's WB or CW, HBO Max show coming. There's all these animated spin-off things for Batman, Catwoman, and everything, but like nothing for Superman in live action form. And it's just like, how do you ever expect to get your characters a push and elevate it if you don't showcase them? Look at Marvel on the other side. There's characters that they're digging in the crates and making popular because they devote the time to them. And it's like your main marquee character, well, maybe it's Batman, but the one that everyone other than Batman would want to see is Superman. And to not have anything is just, it's beyond me at this point why that there's nothing for Superman at this point. It's just, it's crazy to me.
I totally agree. I mean, you know how I feel about, like, I love Batman too. I think I'm a little more forgiving of the amount of Batman content, but I get it. Like, you know,
there's really, I mean, like you get Superman and Lois, and I'm not dishing on that.
It's a good show.
It's I like show, that show, actually. Yeah. But like, that's what we got. We got Superman and Lois. What we got,
you know.
And then they're changing Superman's slogan.
But
yeah, that's all we got.
Cool.
I like the slogan, but
it's
like it's not a big. It's not a.
No, that's a.
But there's no, I mean, maybe they're just not saying anything because they really got nothing to say about it, and it's kind of like what David's saying. Like maybe they're holding back from empty promises. Finally, maybe. I know
there's rumors that have been floating around since the project even began at this point, but I know that they keep saying that, there's a possibility that Superman will show up in Black Adam. And I'm like, man, I hope so, because at least that's something. And other than that, it's like we're talking. I mean, all of next year, nothing for sure. possibly into 2022, nothing, because nothing's in production.
Or 2023.
So, yeah, 2023. So the earliest maybe would be what at this point, 2025,
probably.
maybe.
That's a big maybe.
And
Like they're really not saying anything about the character.
and when did it's hard to imagine
Justice
at this
League?
point that we've only actually had one Superman movie. So I'm trying to think, okay, if I don't base it on the actual Superman movie that we got, Man of Steel, and I just base it on his last appearance that we saw him in something, which was Justice League, I guess.
Yeah.
Compared to like when that was to when we might get another Superman something.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And you know, at that point, I don't know. I don't know if Henry Cavill will be interested or if he'll be on to so many other things that they'll need a new Superman, but it's just weird. And maybe there's something there with Flashpoint that will happen. I don't know if you guys had caught it. I didn't catch it initially, and I watched it a second time and froze it. And you can see the Supergirl in the frame with the two Flashes when they're talking to it looks like Batman, probably Keaton Batman. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But no one really made a big deal that they actually show you got your first look at her there. And it's curious just because I'm wondering where that leaves Superman and what will be said about him, like in that film, you know, in some sense, because you don't just have a Supergirl, even if she's from a different universe or whatever, or maybe from the same, who knows, and not mention the actual Superman. So I'm curious where they'll leave that with him in that movie.
Oh no.
Yeah.
I don't think they're coming. Like you're saying that I have no hopes. So
yeah.
No, I couldn't remember the name of the writer that they had hired for that new Superman film. And I had brought up this Hollywood Reporter article about that search for, you know, a black Superman. But I mean, yeah, how long ago was that announced? That was
maybe. I mean, I guess some of the latest news came out earlier this year, but I think they maybe mentioned it first late last year, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think a lot of the newer stuff that came out, because I know Ta-Nehisi Coates was mentioned as far as being the writer. I think I want to say either very early this year or late last year. Right. And then there's been nothing as far as like who will actually direct and who would be the actor that's playing Superman. Yeah. So nothing there either. Like you said, no news about that. So yeah. just.
Well, unless anybody has anything else, I mean, yeah, there was of course the Batman. I mean, since you know we did get Batman material, we might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
The Batman had a new trailer, which I didn't see live on DC Fandome, but watched it later last night. What did you guys think of what we saw? Who wants to chime in first? Michelle, you look like you're.
I'm surprised you're not wanting to just say what you're thinking.
I can. I'll say really quick. I loved the teaser that was released last year. I've probably watched it too many times. And this one did not hit me the same way. I'm not saying I'm not looking forward to the Batman. I'm very, very much looking forward to this movie. But I didn't necessarily think this trailer was a well-cut trailer. I guess is probably the best way to put it. It just didn't have an effect on me like last year's teaser did. And I don't know why. Like I'm not really sure I can pinpoint it. I've watched it 2 times now. I actually meant to watch it a 3rd time before we did the show. Just to see if I can like pinpoint some of the things that are, I guess you could say, disappointing me about it as a trailer. But you know, the trailer definitely seems to be hitting home this like almost overly aggressive Batman.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders if that's really just a matter of the way this trailer is cut, or if that's really just going to be a major theme of this film, that he is just
It's a major theme.
ridiculously violent.
I think they talked about it. Yeah, I don't know if you got a chance to watch the sit down with Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson and Zoe Kravitz. They mentioned that was sort of a thing. You're dealing with Batman in his first year, and he's still sort of sussing things out, and he still has a lot of anger, and that's displayed through his actions in terms of how he's dealing with things on the streets. And so you see that, and that is a theme because he's still raw and he's not sort of honed in on, and settled in on how he becomes. And so you're seeing a lot of that aggression in his first year, quote unquote, as Batman. So yeah, it's definitely a theme for this particular film.
And that's not a bad thing, I guess. And that's not like my big like kind of gripe with the trailer. But I mean, that sounds like a good storyline. And I knew that this is like his second year in existence or what have you. But I don't know. I guess the trailer just I don't think it was as well done of a trailer to kind of give an overall look at this movie as I think it could have been. Like, so that's how it hit me.
No, I super agree. Like when I compare it to the teaser we got last year, I think when it comes to a good trailer or a teaser, there almost needs to be a cohesive story it's almost like a little mini movie, a story from the beginning to the end of the trailer that you kind of need to get to entice or incite an excitement about the film. And this trailer seemed very choppy. It didn't seem to really have a direction it was going in. It was kind of like, we're going to tease you with the Riddler thing, and then we're going to show you. I'm not mad at it, but I was really surprised that they gave you so much footage of Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman. I was like, wow, we're really getting a lot of Catwoman in this. Okay, like cool, but like, whoa, you're giving a lot here. And it just didn't seem to have a cohesive flow throughout. It just seemed to kind of be like, oh, it was almost like here's a softer scene, and here's a really hard, intense scene, and then here's a softer scene, and then here's a kind of a weird scene, and then here's a really intense scene. It just didn't have a flow to it, I think. And so it just kind of go, okay, so you guys you took a bunch of cool scenes and you just kind of threw them all together with it seemed mishmashy. It didn't incite much more excitement. And I'm excited to see this movie. But yeah, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. I don't know. It didn't do anything major for me in any way, I think. And it kind of started out okay, and then just didn't have a direction, it seemed like.
Bobby, what was your thoughts on it?
I enjoyed it. I think I was looking just specifically out of this trailer, just a few more shots in terms of something else that gave me a little more of what this Batman is going to be about. And I wasn't necessarily looking for story beats or anything in terms of revealing stuff about the Riddler or more within the regards of how everything is kind of being worked out. I think the first teaser did a pretty good job of that. So I was really just looking at this one just to see a few more things and cool shots that the first one didn't have. And so I think it served that purpose for me. I that's why I think I enjoyed it in terms of seeing a couple things. Like one of the things being how like he's coming down the corridor and he's being shot up with bullets and they're just kind of like bouncing off of him. That was a cool shot. And hearing the Penguin and Colin Farrell talk, I totally wasn't expecting him to have that kind of almost, I don't know if it's a New York accent, but it's definitely something there. It sounds different than any way I've ever heard the Penguin voiced. So it was an interesting choice there and looking to see more of how he is, especially when they announced, well, I don't know if it was officially announced, but there's rumored that there's supposed to be a Penguin spinoff series on HBO Max.
Yeah.
And so yeah, getting to see a little bit more of him in this is interesting, and I don't know what happens to his character in this movie, so it's hard to say if that Penguin show on HBO Max is a prequel or a sequel or something in between. But that, and then just that last final shot I really enjoyed, where the car is flipped and you see from Penguin's perspective Batman coming at him, and then the way that the logo pushes in as Batman's walking towards the car. I just thought that was such a sick shot, and
I'll
I
agree
think
that
I
was
enjoyed it.
cool.
So ultimately, yeah, I did get what I wanted out of it, and to that point where I'm like, oh, okay, I think I don't need to see anymore. I think I'm good on seeing any extra stuff, and can wait until, what is it, April that it comes out?
March, like
March, yeah. So
4th
yeah,
or something like that. Yeah. No, it's not too far off.
Yeah, I don't need to see
No.
any more footage. I'm good.
And I don't, but I probably will, because I
Hmm.
wasn't as impressed by this trailer. If I had been as impressed by this trailer as I had been the teaser from last year, I would be totally in the same boat that I wouldn't watch anymore. But once they release another trailer, I have a feeling I'll have a hard time not taking it in, just so I can get some feeling of, okay, no, this looks great.
Hmm.
I mean, like, yeah, I'll need that. I think I won't need it to, convince myself to watch it. Of course,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. I don't know, like,
Yeah.
now I'm already craving something else to go. No. Like, again, in my opinion, we could have caught a better trailer. Here's a better one,
Hmm.
and then I'll feel better about this. So yeah, I'll watch the next one. Almost certainly.
Gotcha.
Anything else from DC Fandom you guys wanted to touch on, comment on?
I mean,
Take that as a no.
the only thing I can say is, like, I've been curious about watching the animated Harley Quinn series that's on HBO Max, and then they did a cute little, like, we're doing season 3, like, we're in black and white, but we're getting color and we're going to be ready to go soon. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of cute. And I was like, oh, I am kind of curious about that. And that actually sparked me into, like, a curiosity that I actually watched the whole first season of Harley Quinn today. So that was my takeaway from the DC.
And you quickly thought, what?
I like it. I like this show. I watched the whole first season. I totally binged on the entire season, which is 12 episodes, and they're about 25 minutes long each, I think. So they're not like really long or anything, but no, it's definitely an adult show.
Oh yeah,
for sure, which they've said it definitely is. But no, I actually like it. It's quirky, and I think it's fun to watch different takes kind of on things. You're kind of seeing a different viewpoint on all the situations, the bad guy situations, the good guy situations. Like, you're seeing it from a different perspective, basically. So it's intriguing, because Harley is she's an anti-hero. Like, she wants to be the biggest bad guy, but she's just not a big bad guy. But she's not a good guy either. Like, she's just something mishmash messed up in between. And so you see all these things from her different perspectives the whole time. So it's interesting. It's entertaining. I like it. Plus, there's such a ridiculous amount of people that voice in that show. It's freaking crazy, honestly. So
cool.
I liked it. I recommend it. If anybody has any slight interest in it, I say go for it.
Nice. And that's on HBO Max, right?
HBO Max. Yep. There's no commercials. You just right on through.
Zip right through it.
Yep.
When you start episodes, does it give like a warning, like, hey, this is not for kids?
Nope.
Like, nothing.
Nope, not at all.
Like, I'm not saying it necessarily needs to, but I don't know. There's still, like, it's animated. It's like,
right.
You would almost think they would do that kind of
And
thing.
like the thing is like the way each episode starts is with kind of that DC opening sequence where it's like DC and then it's Batman and Superman and then what is it? I forget who, and then the Flash, and like you get each character kind of coming forward, and they'll start out with a different set of music for whatever the episode is. So whatever music is for that episode starting off kind of is playing while that sequence is going through. And then like it almost always jumps right as soon as that sequence is over, it just jumps right into something crazy. And then that happens for like 2 minutes, and then they give like the Harley Quinn like title card chart thing, and then they go into the back to the show again. So yeah, no, there's zero warning. It just is what it is, and not every episode is crazy violence. Some of them are, but man, yeah, as far as like language, it's no holds barred there on that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, it's definitely not a kid's show at all.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
But there's good like inside jokes for funny things. There's certain little they make jokes of different things that if you really know your Batman stuff or your DC stuff or even some pop culture-y kind of things, like there's
Right.
funny, quirky references to things throughout. Like it's a cute show.
Cool.
Cute show. It's violent.
Cute. I was gonna say cute is like
I don't know if I would have used that word, but yeah, I get what
like
you're saying.
Like the quirky things like that, like the little pop culture referencey jokes kind of things. Those are kind of fun.
Right.
It adds.
I follow you.
Good writing.
So anyway, that was DC Fandome. I guess we'll see if we get another one next year or not, or if they will just go to Hall H again. Or what's your bet? What's your bet, Bobby? You think they'll do a Hall H panel next year?
Yeah, I think so. Only reason being is because I feel like with DC Fandome, you don't get the experience of having the actors and people right there with you. There's no live component to DC Fandome. So I feel like they'll still want some component of that, some aspect of that in some capacity. Whether it's as large as it normally has been in years past, that's harder to gauge. But I feel like they will do something for Hall H for Warner Brothers next year, for sure.
Yeah, I bet you they will. I think if anything, Warner Brothers probably like this little like financial break that this has allotted them. It's probably ridiculously cheap to put on Fandom, but yeah, they'll be back in Hall H. Like, yeah, it keeps them relevant and it keeps them going.
Yeah, I would agree. I would think they'd be back. It is Sunday. We could talk about box office really quick.
Box office.
Halloween Kills killed it at the box office.
Oh.
And that was on streaming too, right?
No, I don't think so.
Is it just box office?
Oh, it is?
It's on streaming. It's on Peacock.
I thought I
How
saw
impressive.
that today.
How impressive. I mean, I don't think anything has been that impressive that's had a simultaneous release on streaming and day and date in theater. I mean, that's insanely good. 50 million. It's a Blumhouse thing, so it probably costs no more than 25 million maybe to make it. So I believe this movie will go into profit fairly quickly. I think what happened there when I saw the number of that 50 million, my thought is that last week I think we talked about how really people with the Bond movie not doing all as well as maybe they would have hoped, and like that at this point it seems like superhero movies are the things that people will show up for in droves and push 90 million and whatnot in the box office. But I also think after seeing this, it's not maybe just superhero movies, or maybe it's not just about superhero movies. It's about movies that lends itself to a communal aspect. Like people like going to the movies as a group and being scared and sharing in that experience of something of a horror movie. And this is a big horror movie franchise in the month of October. So it really lends itself to people kind of coming out to see this movie together. Because at this point, we've seen that by the numbers, people aren't afraid to go to the theater. So I think that what will bring people in are the ones that they really want to share in that experience. And typically that has been the comic book movies, the Marvel movies, because everyone's been on this 24 movie journey or whatever it is at this point of all the Marvel movies. So it's like everyone's getting together again. like a Thanksgiving or something. Everybody's coming together to see the next chapter in the ongoing saga of MCU. And so you get that with that and other comic book movies because of the familiarity. And I think that with Halloween Kills doing as well as it did, it's that same experience of people wanting to be around other people for a movie that lends itself to the big scares and the jumps and everything, as opposed to sitting at home watching it. And it could also be an aspect of maybe awareness. David, we do this show every week and you didn't even know it was streaming. So it's like,
I was gonna
maybe
say,
some people don't
like,
even know that it's streaming. So
I
it could be
feel
another
like
aspect.
I could be wrong. I don't know what Peacock's numbers are like, but
Probably
even just in like the streaming landscape, I don't see Peacock at least talked about as much as like an HBO Max. So like when a film is on HBO Max, I feel like it has already, I think, a bigger audience. At least
Yeah.
it seems to me, than something that's on Peacock. And
Mhm.
yeah, I didn't know it was on Peacock. Like, and I follow a lot of these actors on their social media accounts. I've been seeing a lot of the promotion for it. I had no idea it was on Peacock. I mean, maybe it was right there in front of my face and I just totally missed it.
I mean, I didn't know literally until I think Friday night, and like I was just kind of scanning through something. I was like, "Oh, hey, we can just stream it." Oh,
Because yeah, now knowing that,
okay.
I mean, not to say I wouldn't go to the theater to see this, I would, but I mean, now I'll definitely watch it. If I can watch it at home, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is, I mean, everything we've also been seeing is that it does seem like audiences are ready to come back to the theater, but except if there's the most hesitant group, it's an older audiences, I think, are the one that are
Right.
hesitant. And then I think a film like No Time to Die is a perfect example of something that can be hit a little harder by a lack of an older audience versus Halloween Kills. I think definitely, veers toward a younger demographic.
Oh yeah, you're
And
getting
I think that helps too, that it did as well as it did for something that's also available on streaming. No, I had no idea. That's pretty impressive that it brought in that much. It's also available to watch at home.
And I don't know for sure. I mean, maybe we'll come back next week and have an update on it, or if you're able to see. But I could have sworn I saw something not all that long ago that said Peacock's numbers. I want to say they were in around 15, maybe 20 million people that have Peacock. And I feel like maybe a lot of that had to do with them having some of the NBC shows on there as a what do you call it, exclusive run on, like the Office and some of the other shows that they had there. And I could have sworn that was one of the big things of why it had big numbers in terms of the subscribers, because I want to say that it was something that we had heard recently where there's like 20 million subscribers for Apple Plus or Apple TV. Okay. And so I want to say that the Peacock numbers were similar or somewhere around that area, but could be wrong. So either way, I think it's pretty good.
I mean, looking at like I quickly found an article from July showing that they reached 54 million signups, 20 million monthly active accounts. So who knows what that's like now?
Yeah.
But I mean, doing a quick Google, and that seems to keep popping up. That's probably the last time they kind of officially put numbers out there, because that kind of matches what you're saying, that 20 million monthly active accounts. I mean, I'll admit I have no Peacock account, so
I only got it so that I could watch Friday 13th for Halloween Kills. So I and it was $4.99 for the month. So I'm like, oh, okay, I'll keep it for a month and cancel. I don't really watch anything else that would necessarily be on there right now. So I got it just to be able to watch that instead of going out to the theater to watch it. And I guess while we're on the subject of it, I'll give my thoughts real quick on it. And I'll say that I wasn't a big fan of the first one that came out a couple of years ago. I forget at this point what I really didn't like about it, other than I just felt like some of the way the story arcs were, or the story was being told, and how it was unfolding. It just, some of it just really stretched my ability to believe in what was happening on screen.
Mhm.
And so I was having a hard time with it. Certain elements I liked, in terms of when you first see Michael Myers and how he kind of starts off the movie, and those aspects I really dug. But then as it gets into the story, it starts to do a little few things where I'm just kind of like shaking my head. And so this second one, I feel like it was okay for me. I've seen a lot of people online really trashing it and taking it to task, and I didn't think it was that bad. Honestly, I think that what, for me, this movie was, that made it good, was that in any kind of Halloween movie, you really are just showing up to see Michael Myers kill a lot of people. And so in that sense, it does that. It gives you that. And I think what messes it up is that they're still trying to tell this 3 arc story through this first movie, second movie, and third movie. But in doing so, it felt more like they really wanted to do a movie where Michael Myers is just killing people, but they still knew that they had to tell a story. But they do the bare minimum to tell that story, and without really moving it all that much forward. And so the story part of it almost gets in the way of just them wanting to just have him kill people. And so it felt like it was fighting with itself in that way, where it was trying to serve two things of telling this story, but also trying to have Michael Myers just kind of going on a rampage. And that's kind of like where it maybe ended up being okay for me, is because it satisfied one thing, but at the expense of something else, that the way they kind of, it almost felt shoehorned in and within the story, that it was just kind of like it had me rolling my eyes a little bit at it. So I didn't think it as bad as a lot of people are saying, but it also isn't one of the, well, I'm gonna say one of the better ones, but I guess that's all subjective in terms of which ones are good. But it doesn't, I think, follow up on what the first one did well enough to continue at that story, which I didn't necessarily vibe with all that much in general. But you cover some of the bases with him just doing inventive kills and stuff like that. And so it absolutely is something that I feel comfortable in saying people should check out if they've seen the first one, just to get where they're kind of going with the second one and where it leads into with the third one. So there's elements there that I think are worth seeing in this one, and it's just for some of the kills. So I would at least suggest it just for that.
All right. And yeah, I guess you could say the other big release of the weekend, The Last Duel, did not fare so well. Came in at number 5. Came in, I mean, you're looking at still over 3,000 theaters, but it only pulled in, I mean, less than 5 million. So
I feel like that movie, I'm interested in that movie. I feel like it's just being released at a really not great time of the year.
Yeah.
And I feel like the promotion for it, I feel like they did not hammer promotion for that movie literally until the 2 weeks right before the movie was coming out. And then I feel like I saw promos for it everywhere. But really up until that point, I feel like I didn't hear anything about this film. But this is a movie that easily could have been like a beginning of December movie, and I think it would have done really well. Or even towards the end, mid to end of December. Like, I feel like it could be a November, December kind of a release if they want it to kind of go for any kind of award season accolades. But like, putting this movie just doesn't seem like, it's not an October movie, and it's hard to explain what my thought process is on that theory, but I just don't think it sits right in its timing of its release. And I think that actually hurt it probably the most. Yeah. That and lack of promotion.
And then also, you know,
older generations,
an older audience.
Yep,
like exactly, I think that definitely is the kind of movie that's going to draw in an older audience. And I mean, if there is a group right now that's hesitant to go to theaters, I think that's it.
Completely.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Yep. We saw the trailer for it in front of No Time to Die, and I honestly still being a little out of touch with when some things are coming out. When we saw at the end of the trailer that it was like coming out in a week, I was like, oh shit, like that, I had no idea it was that soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was like even coming out in a week at that time.
Was that your first time seeing the trailer?
That was actually my first time seeing it.
Oh,
I'd never watched it.
I think it's gonna be interesting, come this winter for like award contending kind of films. I just don't know how well they're gonna do, and I don't think you're gonna be able to have to judge a film by what its box office is. Not that I think a lot of awards type movies do, but I think it'll be interesting just because, like an older crowd that would be more interested in seeing those kind of films, they're just not going to go see them. So,
Right.
yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, those are the kind of the two big, I guess, takeaways from the box office this weekend. How well Halloween Kills did and how badly The Last Duel did. Yeah, we're basically out of time. I mean, as always, I kind of like to go around the table. I mean, if there's one quick thing anyone wants to bring up, Bobby, we can start with you. Anything you want to wrap up with?
Sure. I would say it's since we're in the season of Halloween movies, it's October. Something that you might want to check out on Netflix that I just finished watching this weekend is Midnight Mass, and I would say that one is really going to be something of a treat for people, because if you don't know much about it, just know that it fits in the genre, and kind of go into that with that set of mind, and know that maybe it might start off slow, but when it gets going, it gets going. I personally didn't find that it was really slow. I think it was just doing a lot of character building and getting you comfortable with some of these characters before you get into the meat of the things. But yeah, I really enjoyed it and did not know it was going to be the type of story that it was, and was pleasantly surprised by that, because this particular kind of story of this particular kind of thing has been done a lot recently. And so it's easy to say you can be burnt out of these type of stories, but I think they did it in such a cool and clever way that it was interesting and a new take on that particular type of thing. I'm trying to be as vague as possible, but yeah, I think it's worth watching for sure.
Michelle?
I'm going to piggyback on what I said last week and what Bobby just said, and check out Midnight Mass. It is really good. It's really well written. It's really well executed. And it's a show that definitely falls in line with the Halloween season. The theme is it's one that we've seen, but it is done in a different way, like Bobby was just saying. So yeah, I'm just going to say check out Midnight Mass. I really don't it's not getting the attention it really does deserve. It really needs to be watched. So,
yep, same here. Finished Midnight Mass. I would say I loved that show. I could see that I'll eventually rewatch it at some point, even though it's also a show that, as much as I enjoyed it, I think it was so good. I mean, there were scenes, and without giving anything away, like I think episode 6 that was difficult to watch. And I mean, I hesitate to say that kind of thing, because then I think that might turn people off. Like, why would I want to watch a show like that? I found myself that I cared about these people so much and was so invested in what was going on that like in a particular scene watching it was just so tense. And I can't talk highly enough about that show. I really liked it. So yeah, it's on Netflix. I think, obviously a lot of the attention right now, at least on Netflix, is going to Squid Games, which I'm not discounting that show at all. But yeah, I wish Midnight Mass was getting a little more attention than it is. And with that said, I've seen now 2 episodes of Squid Games. I've been watching it subtitled, not dubbed.
yeah.
I'll keep watching, but I'm not. I especially like that second episode. I'm kind of like, okay, like I'm gonna keep up with it. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't know. Like, especially when you hear these kind of reactions of, oh, Midnight Mass is slow. That second episode of Squid Games was dragging. Just dragging slow, in my opinion. But I'm still curious about it, and I'm going to keep watching it. But
I'll say this. In my opinion, I watched all of Squid Games, and for me, when I watched it in real time, the second episode to me was like the weakest of all of the episodes. It really, from that first episode, it's like it's so. I mean, coming off that first episode, you're just like, oh, like let's see what happens, and then the second episode is just like, all right, like there's no games going on. It's just like after that, it's nothing like
it's
that.
all character development, but
it's
a really slow paced character. It's an overly slowly paced character development. You're kind of like, okay, we could spin this along. But I guess it's necessary to get that depth for the next few episodes. But thus far, it's definitely.
No, I enjoyed the first episode. I do want to keep watching it, but that second episode, I guess I didn't expect there to be an episode like that where there was no games, and it was just like, oh, okay, man, we're okay.
yeah.
But yeah, with that, I don't think I have anything else unless you guys have anything. We're gonna wrap things up. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. We stream this show live, by the way, if you did not know, on YouTube at youtube.com/Flicker Effect, facebook.com/Flicker Effect if you enjoy Facebook, and on Twitch. You can find us on Twitch at Flicker_Effect. Make sure to comment. See if you're watching live ever in the future. If you leave any questions or comments, we may share them live on the air. So please do. You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Flicker_Effect, and you can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening and watching.